Hey, everybody. This is the Show Buddies podcast. I'm Aaron Hafel. And today, I'm sitting here with Lee Bains III. Lee Bains and Glory Fires. He's playing tonight. Lee, how you doing?
Man, better now. Glad to be here.
Happy to see you, man.
Good to see you.
Starting off, where did you grow up?
Birmingham, Alabama. And, born and raised there and lived there pretty much my whole life. But I've lived in Atlanta the last, coming up on 15 years now that I've been in Atlanta, yeah.
What was the first show you saw on your own accord?
The first show I saw on my own accord, let's see. I mean, I definitely asked to be the first shows. There were two shows back to back that I asked to be taken to. I asked my dad to take me to see. I was in sixth grade, and I asked him to take me to see the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner, who were playing like 2 days apart from each other.
Nice.
Which he loved both of those. You know, we had that in common and everything. And but I think the first one that I probably, you know, as a teenager or whatever, where I was like, I can go myself or like find a ride with friends or whatever, that kind of thing. It would have been a DIY show at this place called the Boiler Room in Birmingham. That was, it was an old warehouse, you know, on the north side that's, was kind of wet northwest. That was, Birmingham was a steel town. It's built as a steel town. And
so like some old warehouses were...
There's a lot of disused warehouses and stuff at that time. So it was very easy and cheap to like find a warehouse to rent and have shows in. And that's how this place was. And I'm trying to remember the first show I would have seen there.
But you had a DIY all ages space
in Birmingham.
This is what year?
This would be like 2000, probably something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a pretty good. Things are getting kind of heavy right around then, right? Are you seeing
9/11? I don't think.
Well, that
had maybe happened
musically too, though. Like there's a lot of.
Definitely.
You know, like the metalcore thing is like starting to take. But yes, I mean, obviously 9/11. I mean that.
But you're talking about musically, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was huge, and particularly, I feel like Birmingham had a lot of the. There was a big metalcore band from Birmingham called Haste. They were probably the most popular band in the secular world at that time.
Sure.
There was also a lot of the like Tooth and Nail.
Yeah, Christian hardcore stuff.
Christian hardcore and metal, and that was huge in Birmingham. I wasn't really into any of that.
Yeah.
I was more into like the weird stuff or the more like indie rock, pop punk, emo type melodic.
Was that coming through the Boiler Room too? So that
that was, it wasn't as popular, but you did have like post-hardcore. I mean, Birmingham was also a very diverse scene. There were all
kinds of bands.
Nobody sounded alike really, and almost unless it was that metalcore thing or whatever, but. In the rest of the scene, it's like if you sounded like another band, it was almost like,
what are you doing?
Do your own thing, bro. You know.
What's your first band that plays the Boiler Room?
I never got to play the Boiler Room, but I played the one after that, which was called Cave 9. And then we also had a great all ages space in Anniston, Alabama, which was a small town. It was called the 1213, and then there was also an all ages show spot that was at a pizza place in a town called Montevallo, Alabama. That's a small college town.
A little suburb-ish.
It's like a small town. It's like cow fields and stuff. And I mean, it's about an hour from Birmingham.
Oh, wow.
So, it was like
a drive.
Yeah, it was a drive. It was a commitment to get there.
Yeah.
And, so I played all those places, and the band was called the Shut-Ins.
The Shut-Ins.
Yeah, and we were kind of like, I'd say it was like melodic, kind of. We started out trying to be like Hot Water Music or Small Brown Bike or something like that, and then we started thinking like, well, we need to like shred more, and so we started like
Solos
doing some like twinning guitar stuff. You know, like it was we were giving it our all, and it was very fun. But definitely very of the time. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
So is that the first band then? Shut-ins?
That was playing. My first band that I was ever in was in 6th grade or 7th grade, and we were called Mind Detergent. And
clean it up.
Yeah, clean it up, baby. But our first show was at a school talent show, and we went to a Christian school. And we were like, we didn't even get through the first song before we were canceled. So we did Anarchy in the UK. That's what we played. And like halfway, and we all got detention and stuff. Of course, like that, you know.
But that's cool. I mean, so you said 6th grade. I mean, that's pretty young.
Yeah.
Is that something that, I mean, was that kind of through your grandma, or I mean, did you pick up guitar? Do you play piano too? Or
I'm a terrible piano player. I wish I was good at it. And they tried to teach me to play because my grandmama was she was a very good. I would say she was like, I thought she was a great accompanist on the piano. She didn't think so. They had another woman play at the church, and she was like directing the choir and everything. My grandmama was, but I definitely grew up singing with them and at the church. And so, yeah, I grew up more singing. And they tried to, they took me to an old lady in the neighborhood to try to teach me piano. And I just wasn't any good at it. I couldn't really read music. It just didn't make
I can't
sense.
either, but I mark learning how to play piano, whether it was through being forced to, or whether it's through church or however, like definitely not a bad thing. Like it was like, seems to, especially as a musician, like it seems like a fucking asset.
Totally.
Like I still like my music theory is like, bleh, like I'm not very great with it, but also just like just with the way that people learn things, I feel like having piano in your back pocket like that, like maybe it just helps.
Yeah,
it's
totally
like critical thinking, all kinds of stuff. It can be applied. I will, if I'm talking out my ass, I'm talking out my ass.
No, you're not.
But I feel like right around there. It's definitely a good thing.
Well, the cool thing about the piano is like everything's laid out in front of you. You know, like there's one key for each pitch, whereas like on a guitar you can play the same pitch like 5 different places. You know what I mean? There's something very logical, I feel like, about the piano,
and which it makes sense that I can't do it.
Maybe. But it's weird. I've started messing with it, just listening and just being like, well, that sounds kind of cool. And I learn much better that way than by somebody sitting down and be like, play this and then this.
I can hack a thing like a melody out, but it would take me a bit. Anyway, so that's awesome. You're playing. So you had like little like cover bands and stuff like that, or throughout.
Yeah, I mean we tried writing our own stuff pretty early, but that first Mind Detergent was we just played. Yeah. We did like a Sex Pistols song, Pennywise.
Oh wow.
No Effects, that kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah. Did the Shut-ins ever get to tour?
Not outside Central Alabama. No, okay. We would do those 3 places. I don't think we even got as far as Huntsville or anywhere like that.
So what's the first band that you're doing that tours?
That toured. The first tour I ever did was with my friend Betty. She had a band. She was from Alabama and had moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and she had a band, and the bass player couldn't do the tour. So she was like, would you play bass? I was like, hell yeah, I would love to, because I'd never been on a tour before. So I was playing bass in her band, which was called Betty and the Boys. Okay. And we, we played maybe 4 or 5 shows from Chapel Hill to Birmingham. And then I had a band around that time called Arkadelphia, and we, not too long after that, did a tour, just very cobbled together kind of thing.
Well, it's a DIY tour. Yeah,
definitely. And
playing like, are you playing like spaces or are you playing venues? Mix?
A mix.
Yeah.
Man. Like, we'd play DIY spaces. We'd play dive bars. I remember, I think it was that first tour we wound up getting a show in Wilmington, North Carolina, which was very far out of the way. And it was at a sports bar, and like we set up, and there was nobody there but like two guys watching. It was like the Major League playoffs or something. And
like,
they're like,
you guys are gonna play during the sports?
Totally. And we just said before him, we're like, sorry, y'all. Like, we're sorry, but we just drove 7 hours.
We're gonna do this.
We're gonna play. I hope it doesn't ruin your baseball experience. And they were, nice and dealt with it.
Yeah, man. Oh my God.
But we were playing to the backs of their heads, as they were watching the game.
It's a little soundtrack to their game.
Totally.
So did Arkadelphia? You guys put out records? A few records?
No, we had like some demos that I was selling. We just burned CDs and had made little packaging out of like paper sacks, and stencils and stuff. And we were selling those on the road,
Mm-hmm.
And then we did wind up making an album, but basically the band fell apart before it could come out or anything. But it's done. I mean, there's like a finished album. Yeah, but just
is that with any of the guys that end up in the Glory Fires or?
No. No, the drummer was Rajan. His name was Rajan Parmalee. He played for years with Dan Sartain.
Oh, okay.
But and then the bass player on the album, I'm pretty sure I might have played bass on a couple songs, but mostly it was this guy Matt Patton, who now plays with Drive-By Truckers.
Yeah, he's Dial Back Sound.
Exactly. Yeah, so
shout out.
Yeah, so he played bass on it, and but he wasn't really in the band because it was just one of those things where, like, people were quitting or whatever. Like our bass
trying to keep the fucking band going. You're hey, you want to play?
Exactly. So, but the bass player, the normal bass player of Arkadelphia, was the first bass player in the Glory Fires. He was like the one continuing member. His name was Justin.
Now what's the space? Oh, sorry. What was his name?
Justin Colburn. He played at the Lift back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the first time.
Probably
11.
Maybe the first two times even, but definitely the first.
2011 was the first. Man. What's the split time between Arkadelphia and Glory Fires?
I think Arkadelphia we started in 2007, 6, something like that.
Okay.
And stopped playing in probably 2008, and then Glory Fires started in like 2010.
Yeah.
So, and part of the reason I didn't just get another band together when the guys, when we just that little trio disintegrated was that I'd started playing a lot in the band, the Dexatines, who had been around for
they're
a
Atlanta
long
band?
time. They're from Alabama also.
They're from Alabama. Okay.
Yeah, they're from Tuscaloosa.
Right.
And I was still in Alabama, in Birmingham at this time. But that Matt Patton was also the bass player in the Dexatines.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I played with them, and they were like my favorite local band at the time, or band in the area. And
so they kind of had like an established thing going on, and then you come on guitar or what? Yeah, okay.
Just came in on third guitar.
Oh,
and
nice.
We played. I played with them for a couple of years, and then they like went on hiatus.
Yeah, I see they play like a reunion show every once in a while.
Yeah.
Fun, then, like it's like garage, southern garage kind of stuff. Yeah, I like
totally.
the Dexatines quite a bit.
Yeah,
it's fun stuff.
Yep, definitely. But yeah, and then as that was kind of petering out, that's when I got the band together that would become the Glory Fires.
So were you already kind of was there a little bit of heat under you, or like coming with the Arkadelphia stuff? Is that like, because it seems like the first record comes out on a live, right?
Right.
So I mean, that's pretty sweet.
It was awesome. He just happened to want to put it out, and he didn't know about the band prior to that. Mm-hmm. Oh wow, no,
or like anything that you had done
about us. I don't think.
Wow.
And we recorded with Tim Kerr. He came to Birmingham, and we made an album and a couple, and like a long weekend, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sent those rough mixes to the guy Patrick at Alive, and as well as a couple other places. And Patrick, for some reason, just really liked it.
Picked it up.
You know, he was like,
well,
"Man,
he puts out some pretty fucking good records." So
really
you know,
he really well, and exactly. And I was like, "Why does he want to put mine out?" But
yep.
he so and he wanted us. He was like, "I really like it. I like the songs. I would like for y'all to re-record it." You know, because it was a very like DIY recording. You know, there's a lot of noise,
rough edges.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we were like, well, okay, you know, we'll go in and so we re-recorded it with our friend Lynn Bridges.
Because it does. I mean, it does have like a smoother sheen to it than the following or the next, you know, few records. So I mean, not that that's a bad thing, but it's still. I mean, because you got that fucking
it's different.
Who did the video for "Ain't No Stranger"?
Oh, my buddy Corey Pennington.
It's a cool video, man.
Yeah,
it's funny.
He did a great job.
Looked like you guys are having a good time.
Oh yeah,
you know. So Dereconstructed. Did you know that you had to? Like we were just talking about the sheen of that previous record. Like, did you know? Did you just feel it? You had to make that record sound that way. Yeah,
totally. Because I think that was all of our first time, like when we did There's a Bomb in Gilead in like a proper kind of recording studio. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where like everything, like it was at Dialback Sound back when Bruce Watson from Fat Possum owned it.
Oh, wow.
And he had all this amazing analog old school gear from the 50s and 60s and 70s and all this stuff. And like, and then, I think touring and playing on, it's like, man, it doesn't really feel
like the show.
It doesn't feel like we kind of are, you know what I mean? Where in a way, probably the first version we recorded with Tim was probably more of a document of that. You know what I mean? But anyway, so when we were doing the second one, we were like, we just want to, you know, try to capture the energy and the, you know.
Because I'm pretty sure that first show that you guys did here, I may have only been hearing There's a Bomb in Gilead.
Yeah.
And then you guys come out and you do what you do. But I think there had to have been a handful of Dereconstructed songs in the set by that point.
Probably.
And it was just it was fucking amazing.
Oh,
it was beautiful. Thanks, it was like there was loud and raucous and exactly like it gave me a new perspective on Southern rock that, you know, I'd kind of been getting from, say, your Drive-By Truckers or something like that, but it was like, this was like, no, this is actually like Southern punk. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. This is, but you guys were just raging, and it was. I loved. I mean, it grooves, man, and then so that record comes out on Sub Pop,
right, and that was a shock too, because what's funny is Patrick at Alive really did not like the album. You know, when we sent it, because I just hoped he would put it out.
Yeah.
And sent it to him. He was like, no, I don't like this. This is just too crazy sounding and all that. And so I was like, well, damn, all right. So we sent it to some other people. And I was thinking like maybe In the Red, because they were still putting stuff
I was going to
out.
ask, actually. In the Red was definitely one I was going to, like, you got to have at least thrown them something.
That's who I thought might I was like, man, if they would put it out, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would be so stoked about that.
It makes sense.
And Tim Kerr, who produced, we recorded Dereconstructed with Tim, so he did that one. But we did it in a studio, whereas, the first one was in a studio, but it was like in a guy's basement. It was very, this one was like a little more, he had he had a little, it was more of a middle ground, I guess, between like a studio like the one we're in and like in somebody's basement. And, but Tim produced it. And anyway, I know Tim was buddies with In the Red fella, and I was like, do you think he might put it out? And Tim was like, yeah, I'll try. And he was like, I also know Jonathan at Sub Pop, but Tim knows everybody. He's
been around for a little
70s,
bit. Yeah,
he's like, I know. And we were like, Sub Pop, dude, give me a break. Like, they are not gonna be into this. So I was like, but we were like, some of these garage labels that Tim knew was like, but maybe
Estrus
they would
or
be
something like
into
that.
it.
Yeah,
and I think Estrus he did talk to Dave Kreider, I think, but he just stopped kind of putting stuff out.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, Tim was like, well, I'm going to send it to the guy at Sub Pop anyway. And we were like, all right, well, whatever. And he heard back, and the guy, Jonathan, really liked it, which we were just shocked. We were what?
They're not afraid to put out a rockin' record. I mean,
right, of course.
They've and to pivot from right. It's like at the same time that they're making waves with Nirvana or something like that. They're also booking they're also getting the Afghan Wigs, which is a pretty different band.
Different.
Yeah.
Totally.
So, I mean.
I was just surprised they would. I mean, that's a label that you've heard about your whole life.
Exactly.
And you've listened to.
You're just like, holy shit.
Like, why us? And, but yeah. And then it just so happened we were doing our first West Coast tour not too long after that. And, he came to the show. Jonathan Poneman did, and met him, and he was great. And then wound up playing in Seattle, and and they signed off on it and said they'd put it out. And so yeah, but that's how that happened. It was just.
Had you done? You guys have gone over to Europe, toured a bit, haven't you? Was that from that record, or was it prior to that?
Weirdly, it was the first album.
Okay.
That was another weird thing where so much of the stuff is just random.
Yeah.
It's just truly random.
Well, luck and being in the right place, right time.
Right time.
Yeah.
And we had played a show in New York. It was on like a weeknight, I think. Not a lot of people at the show. And after the show, there was a group of guys who kind of stood out because they were like, honestly, to me, they were like middle-aged. They're probably my age now, but they were like well-dressed and like groomed.
Suits.
And yeah, they weren't literally wearing suits, but they looked better than me. You know what I mean? And,
fair enough.
You know what I mean? And they came up to the merch table afterward, and they were talking and they were clearly not American. They had like some sort of accent. We'd assumed European accent of some kind. And but they were just talking to us and all that. And one guy says something, and then he walks away. And then one of the other guys says to me, "Do you know who that is?" I was like, "No." And he said, "That's Eirik Mosveen." And I was like, "I don't know who that is," And he's like, "Well, he's a very famous journalist in Norway, and he loves your album." It was like his, and I was like, "Oh, cool, thanks," And then maybe a day or two later, we were driving home, and I got an email from. Well, I got a couple of. I was driving. Everybody's asleep because we'd driven through I think we might even. We had a long drive home. I don't remember where it was from, but a couple emails popped up, and I was driving, so I didn't read them, but I could see the name, and they were both like Scandinavian names, it's like Gustafsson or something like that. I was like, that's weird. And then my phone just started kind of popping up a lot, and I was like, man, can one of y'all drive for a minute? I want to see what's going on my phone. And he had written this review of the show, and I mean, this like it was like the front page of the art section, and basically, I guess the Norwegian equivalent of like the Sunday.
Norway loved country punk. I mean, they fucking go nuts. Like they have for a while.
Totally.
Like Jason the Scorchers.
Yes.
I mean, it's crazy.
They love it.
Yeah.
And I had no idea until this happened. And he'd written this article, and it was in basically the equivalent of like USA Today or something. Like it
was a big thing.
Like
big
the
article
national newspaper. And so then we were like struggling to get tours together in the US. And now it's like
you gotta get your ass to Norway.
Yeah, get us to Norway and Sweden and shit. And we God, it was just so wild, man. How and again, it was interesting though, because I think that was off the first album, and so I think what people were expecting was different from what we actually
gave them.
And Eric did. I mean, he described in the article like what we were actually like and what we were.
Because he would have seen it. He would have seen the real show.
And that's what he reviewed was the show.
Yeah,
he didn't review the album. He mentioned the album, but he was really talking about the show.
Yeah.
And but anyway, we went over there, and it was great and all that. But I think it was pretty different from what some folks were expecting and all that. But that was our first time, and I played in Norway a couple of years ago. Still am able to go over there. So.
I was going to say, was that with the Lonnie Holly?
I'm trying to think if we've played.
And I wanted you to also talk about that stuff too.
I don't know that I've played with Lonnie in Norway. Oh yes, I have.
Well, maybe that was just the UK or like the.
No, we did, and then the Glory Fires went back as it was 2023 was the last time we were over there.
Okay.
But so we still have friends over in Norway and Sweden and all that from.
Is that still where you kind of like if you have to tour Europe, like those are the fucking good countries?
They're pretty, I would say those, UK, Spain. Spain's probably the best, honestly.
Wow.
But yeah, it's been interesting though. It's, because I guess now been going over there for, I think 2013 was the first year. So it's like, there's like cycles to it all. But definitely when we first were going, it's like Sweden, Norway particular, and Sweden was banging. And then some of these other places were not really. And then now I feel like they've kind of more evened out a little bit.
Did you have to play in any of the like squats or like
no
crazy punk venues? And
not there, not in because we again like they slotted us into the kind of more I guess like
nicer venues, probably
Americana type thing, so that's kind of typically the places we were playing in Scandinavia. So but we've definitely played more places like that in like the UK or stuff like. But that's what's interesting too is and I think it's great that like these countries still have their own sort of frame of reference for things, and people or even different parts. So like in Spain, different parts of the country have very different tastes and are into different stuff, and so. Like
the Basque is really into rockabilly or something.
Like Basque, dude, Basque is awesome. Like we love playing the Basque country, and then but then like you go like further south in Spain, and they're not into the same stuff. They're not as into like rock and roll and stuff in southern Spain as they are in the north. And I don't know, it's just interesting.
Yeah. So tell me about the Lonnie Holly connection.
Well, Lonnie is also from Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
He, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, Lonnie was going around and teaching art to kids in Birmingham. And he would take this artificial sandstone material that he'd find and take it around and teach you how to sculpt it. And he was known in Birmingham as the Sandman. That's what everybody called him. And he would go to schools and like boys and girls clubs and scout troops and stuff like that. And so that's how I first knew of him as a little kid.
Like he would come into your class and teach that.
Yep,
Okay.
and teach that. It was like a special, almost like a in-school field trip kind of thing.
We had a guy who came in and taught us like scrimshaw stuff.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, kindergartner. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was wild.
Like whale tusk carving?
Yeah, like carving into it and like carving little. I mean, it was like the husband of one of my sub teachers or one of the teachers or something like that. But so he was retired and had time, and he was just, we didn't really like learn. He showed us.
It's just one time.
Yeah. But it was that, that kind of an experience. Yeah. Like,
wow.
Definitely wouldn't just seek that out.
Right.
So it was cool that he did it.
So cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever keep up with him and like?
I mean, he would. I feel like he popped up every once in a while, and like we would, he would show maybe a new piece that he did or something like that. But I mean, he was older by the time. I mean, so I'm sure. I mean, that's.
Yeah, but did you ever see much of his work? Like, did he
just the stuff that he brought?
Just stuff he brought.
Yeah.
That stuff's amazing, man.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, just being able to do any of that shit is
totally
nuts.
There's some artists I've seen recently. They're from one of the historic whaling area. I don't know if it's East Coast or West Coast, but they do scrimshaw. But I think they do it with PVC or something.
Oh wow!
But it's incredible. I forget where I saw that recently. It was at a museum somewhere on tour. I think there's a lot of free museums out there. It turns out,
well, hopefully,
for now,
stick around.
Anyway, let's knock on wood, But yeah, but it was very cool.
So Lonnie was coming into.
But anyway, he was coming in there, and then over the years, I would see his art in museums or see it referenced or whatever. And then when I moved to Atlanta in 2010, not long after that, I went to a show. Deer Hunter was playing, and the opener was Lonnie Holly, and I was like, Lonnie from Birmingham, and and I was like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna make art? And he was up there with a keyboard.
He sure was,
and I didn't know he made music, and this was pretty early in his performing in front of people. But sure enough, it was the same Lonnie Holly, and I was like, wow, this is really special, And he, and I don't think maybe I'd heard that he moved to Atlanta or something like that, but Atlanta's a big city, and a lot of people from Alabama wind up in Atlanta.
Sure. It's like Chicago from here.
Totally. Exactly. It's the Chicago of the Midwest, of the South, And so anyway, and then it was a couple years later, it was when we were working on Dereconstructed, I wanted to use a photo of this other Birmingham artist named Joe Minter. I wanted to use a photo of his art environment for the cover. And so I went over to his house to talk to him about it. He's an incredible artist in person, but he lives on like a dead-end street, and he owns quite a bit of property now at the end of that street, and he's built this incredible art environment that it's called, people usually call it Joe Minter's African Village, but it's also called the kind of, I've heard him refer to as something like, it's basically telling the history of African people in the U.S. and particularly in Alabama and Birmingham.
Wow.
Or the before the United States. But anyway, it's all sculpture and, painting, and he's all this like cool landscaping that he does and grading and everything. And anyway, it's very powerful. And if anybody's ever traveling through Birmingham, he's happy for people to come by.
I want to check that out for sure.
And if he's there, he'll come and show you around. But anyway, so I went over there to ask him if I could, if we could use a photo, have a friend come take a photo and use it for the cover. And he was like, that's fine with me. That's cool. And his wife, who's passed now, Ms. Minner, was like, well, you should probably call Bill, who was kind of his manager, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, yeah, you should probably call him. So she called him and put me on the phone with him.
The red tape on.
Yeah, we talked. And he was like, yeah, we'll, just get everything cleared up and all that. Anyway, so Mr. Minner's work was on the cover and all that. And a little while after that, we were playing a festival in Tallahassee, Florida, where Lonnie was also playing. And I was like, oh, cool, we'll go see Lonnie. And Lonnie and Mr. Minner had the same manager. So he knew, like, oh, you're the guy who used Joe Minner's artwork on your album cover and all that. And so that's when I met Lonnie as like an adult.
Okay.
You know? I mean, and he was like, oh, I'm Lonnie. I was like, trust me, I know. I've known my whole life.
That must have been wild.
Yeah. And, but that was like 2014, I think, and something like that, 15. And then we started playing together in Atlanta and, right around then. And, just every once in a while, kind of we were around it. All of Lonnie's music is improvised.
I was going to say, like, a lot of vocal, like just a cappella stuff, right? And
sometimes, but he plays keys and I play guitar with him, and he plays with different people. But everything's just made up on the spot. There's no plan whatsoever. You just listen to Lonnie and follow him, and I just love doing that. In the last few years, I've been doing that a lot, more than I've really been playing my own show. Although the last year or two, I've started doing more of my own stuff again.
Coming back out, yeah.
Yeah, but I really just love playing with him, and because, he's just so inspiring. And
how do you prep for something like that? Do you just listen to his stuff, or do you like, I got to go back and listen to fucking Coltrane or something like that? Like,
no, that's what's so cool. And part of what I've learned so much from him is that the way I prepare for it is to just be present. Whatever I need to do to be present and aware of what's happening and listening, that is what works best. Because I've tried over the years, particularly when I was first starting, I was like, well, maybe I should have a couple ideas that I come up with ahead of time that I can bring in there. Maybe I should have this approach or that approach, or whatever. And doing that really just messes with it. Yeah. It becomes a hurdle, So, it's really just trying to be there and open and attentive and just kind of creating.
Play what happens.
Yeah.
Play it as it lays.
Yep.
What's coming up for Lee Bains III? The Glory Fires?
I'm pretty much just playing by myself right now. So the guys that I played with for a long time, the rhythm section bowed out a couple of years in 2022, and I did a couple of tours with other friends, playing that were really fun. But for now, I've been working on a lot of new music, and
do you have like a solo record? Like,
it's something's in process.
Working up.
Yeah, it's pretty in process, and so these shows, I'm like, I want to see what I can do myself, and I've like got some different things, like I've programmed drums and stuff, and I'm doing different, just trying to broaden what I can do, or
with the one person,
with one person.
and just, I mean, obviously it's like easier to travel.
Totally.
You know.
Yep.
And I tell you ever seen Bob Log III?
Oh yeah.
He's here next Friday.
Nice.
I mean, it's that not that what you're is going to be similar, but it's there's a lot you can do. It's apparent.
There really is.
There really is, man. So, are you going to be playing new songs tonight?
No, I won't. They're all, nothing's really in that like cohesive a form yet.
Mm-hmm. But you're still, I mean, so you're living in Atlanta?
Yep.
Right on. How do you feel the scene is there? Is that?
Oh man, Atlanta's.
What's happening? Who's the hot
wild.
band?
I don't even know, man. It's such a big city that there's not like a scene. There's like a bunch of scenes.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, do you find when you're back in town, like, are you just kind of like trying to hunker down and write, or I mean, do you get to go out much, or like, I mean,
are you talking about in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I go out some, but yeah, also, you know, and I work. I do like home repair work and stuff.
Okay.
So, I just turned 40, so, but yeah, I mean, I try to stay abreast of what's going on and stuff, but it's a weird, Atlanta's, I mean, I've been there for so long now, but I've never really felt, it's just so big.
Yeah.
Is the thing. It's like
hard to call it home.
It's more like New York or Chicago or something, where there's so many people doing so many different kinds of things. Whereas, like, I feel like, at least from the time I've spent in Dubuque, it's more like Birmingham, where if you make original music that's at all just kind of on the outskirts of mainstream stuff, then you know each other. You know, like know somebody who know, you know. And,
the scene's not that big.
Yeah.
Yep.
And honestly, that is always, you know, that's, I guess just because that's what I came up in, that feels more natural to me or whatever. So Atlanta, like, in a weird way, even though it's a much bigger city, I feel like my musical community's smaller somehow than it was in Birmingham, where, again, it's like, well, if you write your own music and, like, know who Black Flag is, then you know each other.
You probably know.
Basically. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so, but to your point, but there is, and it's also, Atlanta's so dominated by hip hop, you know, and the, like, big industry hip hop. So that's something even stranger about, like, Atlanta, that, you know, I mean, there's musicians basically, I mean, who are damn near running the city, you know, but they're like T.I. and Ludacris and people like that, you know. So, but yeah, there's a ton of good bands in Atlanta. New Junk City are friends of mine. There's this duo called Revival Season that I really like a lot.
Revival Season.
Yeah, and they're like, I mean, it's hip hop. I don't know. I would say it's like very inventive hip hop, you know.
Okay. I mean, do you get into like the Def Jux stuff from the early 2000s, like early LP stuff? Or,
oh yeah.
You know, some of that. I mean, some of those beats are pretty wild, but not the wildest. There's definitely crazier, but that's cool. I mean, that would be nice to have that as like a constant, you know, culture happening around you.
Totally.
You know, I think it definitely probably informs people's openness to different to hip hop, and, you know, having it as like one of the main businesses in town. Yeah,
it's pretty wild, man. It's like, you know, you go to the airport and they have like "Welcome to Atlanta," and it's like a famous rapper. You know what I mean? Like Gucci Mane is like
it's Lil Jon or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like these guys are like the big, you know, they're the equivalent of like the guy that owns the, you know, pulp mill or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's pretty interesting, and it also is like just kind of humbling because it's like no matter how, like, you know what I'm saying, like you're never like, no matter what, if you play music in Atlanta, you're never gonna be Outkast or like Gucci Mane or whatever, you know. Right. So it's kind of it's good in a way. It's like, all right, we can just kind of do our thing, you know.
They just focus on the hip hop,
right?
Well, we got like is the Masquerade, is that still a thing? Or
the Masquerade's still a thing. It's it moved probably since you've been there.
I've never been there, but
nope.
I'm a nerd, so I pay attention to the tour schedules.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's still there, but it was in a really cool old, I think it was like a textile mill, and it was there for a long time, and then it moved probably 10 years ago into this weird little building downtown that's almost like a food court kind of situation, but it's kind of awesome because the Masquerade has 3 venues and of
different sizes,
increasing size. So you can there's like what had been the food court. It's like where people hang out between the shows and whatever, and I like the new Masquerade. It sounds good. Really? I don't think I've played at the old one, but I don't think I've played at the new one. But I'll say this, man, Dubuque is looking good. When I rolled in today, it'd been a while since I'd been here, and it's such a beautiful city, and it's always been a beautiful city.
It's got there's a
lot of people hanging out, and I mean, it was pretty busy out there today.
Yeah, I mean, day traffic, daytime foot traffic is good. It's just a lot of people head out to the suburbs at the,
really?
I mean, we're it's slowly building up, but it's like we've got the places that people can live, these apartment buildings that are very nice and like that are warehouse apartments,
right?
But they'll go there and maybe hang out in like the couple of bars in that little neighborhood. It amazes me that for all the people that you're seeing, it's like I will still ask people, hey, have you ever heard of the Lift? And people will still tell me no. They're like, did you grow up here? Did you live here? Oh yeah, I've lived here for 25 years.
Wow.
Or my entire life.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's
and the Lift predated, like you took it over from somebody, right?
Yeah, I mean, I started booking shows in 99. It opened in 99.
Okay.
And then I started working there in 2004, took it over in 2016.
Right. So, I mean, that's, 99 was a while ago.
99 was a while ago. It blows my mind, like, but it speaks to the people's, I don't want to say fear.
Yeah.
It is just non-curiosity.
Right.
It's not fear. It's like non-curiosity.
Yeah, about something, right there.
Yeah, and it's or sometimes one experience and that'll just sour it.
Right.
There's a lot. The Lift has got a stupid history. There's all kinds of problems, and it's a bar.
Yeah, totally. Like, it is. In fact,
I'm sure the
bar.
Nick has like plenty of stories. But
there's so many people I've heard so many times, man, that's the last time I'll ever go to the Nick. You know? And then they're there again.
You see him next weekend. You see him.
But no, man, I mean, I've never had anything but a great time.
It's a beautiful town. It's a beautiful area. I mean, the way that
city.
You came down from Minneapolis, like I'm sure that was a nice drive, like
beautiful.
Chill. A little long. It's a little long.
Yeah, it was a little long. I'm a little tired, but it's but no, I remember one time we were in Hoboken, New Jersey. We were playing and we were just talking about tour stuff and just different places we've been. And I was like, man, I gotta say, man, we played this awesome, or maybe at that time, a couple of 3, I don't remember what year it was, but like, man, it's just awesome times in Dubuque. And I was like, one of the best nights of tour I ever had was like, we got to town, walking around downtown. We went up the incline elevator.
That was the first time. Yep.
And, it was just beautiful bluffs over the Mississippi and all that, walking through town. Then we walked over to Monk's, and there's like this kind of art jazz ensemble playing, like like cello.
Yep.
And I mean, just like captivating, beautiful music. Then we go to the lift, and it's like a hell-raising show, and, and just everybody's so cool. And all
that was a good night.
It was a great night. And the guy I was telling was like, when was it, or whatever, and his wife was one of the people in the ensemble playing at Monk's, and he was like, she told me that was their best night of the whole tour also, was
yes,
the Dubuque.
I remember.
Like, that's everybody who you know, last night Minneapolis talked, you going to the lift? Yeah, man, tell Aaron, hey, love that,
It's nice that we've been
precedes itself.
It's nice that we've been able to be around, and do the thing for as long as it's been.
It's a gift, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Just try to be here and make sure the shows keep going.
Yeah.
But, well, man, thank you so much.
Thank you, Aaron.
Really appreciate it, and I'm stoked for the show tonight.
Thank you, brother. Me too. Thanks for having me.
Cool.